world by bravely posting an eloquent essay on Beijing's short-lived democracy wall. Mr. Wei boldly insisted that the CCP's 4 modernizations in industry, agriculture, defense, and science weren't enough to truly make China a modern and civilized nation. Harkening back to the May 4th movement generations earlier, he said China needed a 5th modernization, democracy. The Chinese Communist Party repeatedly threw Mr. Wei in jail for his advocacy. In 1997, he immigrated to America, where he has continued his courageous call for the Chinese Communist Party to honor the unalienable rights that God has given to every Chinese citizen, from Tibet to Tiananmen and from Hong Kong to Hubei. Mr. Wei, please stand and be recognized. It's a blessing to have you with us here today. Thank you again. Now, if you believe our founding principles should inform foreign policy, and especially the promotion of unalienable rights, we have to lay down a framework for how to think about this around the world. Now, we have to be realistic, because our first duty is, of course, to secure American freedoms. That's what I raised my right hand to do when I was sworn in as America's Secretary of State. Our dedication to unalienable rights doesn't mean we have the capacity to tackle all human rights violations everywhere and at all times. Indeed, our pursuit of justice may clash with hard political realities that thwart effective action, and our promotion of rights may be possible to achieve through diplomatic tools, but it, from time to time, will certainly not be. And our declaration isn't a license for foreign adventurism, nor does it direct such. And so we are forced to grapple with the tough choices about which rights to promote and how to think about this. Americans have not only unalienable rights, but also positive rights, rights granted by governments, courts, multilateral bodies. Many are worth defending in light of our founding, others aren't. Prioritizing which rights to defend is also hard. There was a research group found combined 64 human rights-related agreements encompassing 1,377 provisions between the United Nations and the Council of Europe alone. That's a lot of rights. And the proliferation of rights is part of the reason why this report is so important. It reorients us back to the foundational, unalienable rights that we are bound to protect. This grounding in our founding principle also helps us to judge when other nations are violating the rights that we care most about. As the late Justice Scalia once remarked, the Soviet Union had a long and beautiful Bill of Rights. It abounded in inspiring promises, and those promises were worthless. More rights does not necessarily mean more justice. And now, I didn't give the Commission the task, it wasn't within its charter, to prescribe specific policies to address these challenges and these difficult issues. But the report has provided us the essential questions to ask. How should we think about this? It provided a framework. Let me walk through what the report says about how we might think about this with several questions. Are our foreign policy decisions rooted in our founding principles? Are the decisions consistent with our constitutional norms and procedures? Are they rooted in the universal principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Does a new rights claim that's being presented represent a clear consensus across different traditions and across different cultures, as the Universal Declaration did? Or is it merely a narrow partisan or ideological interest? Look, none of us will answer these questions precisely the same. We won't come to identical conclusions about them. But now, at least, thanks to the Commission's work, we have a framework through which to ask the right questions and a basis for thoughtful, rational debate.